Alright, hello everyone. My name is Disc, and in this video we're looking at a 24 Junkyard. We are Fortified, Quaking, and Bolstering, and Shrouded. But the week's just about over. I'm happy to be doing keys above 20s again. I kind of look at 20s as baseline, so I put out some lower level keys just to keep my channel active, but from here on out, hopefully they should be like 24s and up. But yeah, this is a 24 Junkyard, and it went really well for me. I have been playing this key for many years, so it's one I am a little bit more familiar with. So hopefully I can give you guys some good strategy and call out my plays. But off the top, you always want to try and place where your PI is going to go. It's not to the priest, so it's either going to be the Shaman or the Warlock. And I think the Warlock has better IO, better gear, and like meta, they say. So I think I favor the Warlock more than the Shaman. But I'm actually kind of eager to see this on replay. I've not watched it back yet, but I don't think I had the best PI game. I think I might have dropped one. So yeah, we'll see what happens. You never want to drop PIs. You kind of just want to run those on cooldown. This isn't the best group composition for PI, like maximizing PI, but yeah, let's see what I did. Bots are the name of the game. And as a priest, I have a really cool little trick to kind of lock in your bot right away. So it's my key for once. Here we go, 24 Junkyard. I have a weaker that auto-selects haste. I just like eliminating clicks out of my play. So we have a warrior, which is a little bit different for me as a tank. But yeah, as a priest, you can come right over here, fade, get that shock bot, no problem. Wait for the warrior to pick up aggro before I attack. And I think the best way to make best use of your shock bot is by just farming dots. So I kind of look at Junkyard as just like how good am I at keeping my dots rolling. So waiting for this fourth guy to join before I boon. PI the Warlock. All dots are out. Fresh Atone on the tank. Schism boon. Nova blast. Defensive penance are really nice sometimes. There, we got our regen. That felt good. So I do have a weaker to highlight when someone gets shrunk. It's one of those debuffs where if it's not like a melee, you don't really have to prioritize getting it off. It does no damage unless you're stomped on. So I kind of let the Warlock just carry it for a moment. And I think this is where the key had its first whoopsie-doopsie. I've said this in the past. Yeah, you can fade and get this guy too. I've said this in the past. I think a sign of a good player is one that can adapt and recover. Yeah, so there are Shadow Priests. Somehow, like, accidentally pulled those guys? That's crazy. Going into a little bit of recover mode here. Trying to get atonements out. There's my first pain sup. Yeah, so potentially I could have raptured off the top and saved some lives, but that was a really bad pull from the priest. Yeah, I did use a rapture there late. We had an Ankh. Oh my god. Thankfully I got a Shadowman proc there. Quick to use potion too. Always want to work potions into your rotation I basically look at it as a long cooldown, instant heal with no GCD. So, I mean, that's literally what it is. So yeah, you want to use those whenever you can, and it saved my life there. So did that proc. Yeah, so I think, like, looking back on that, it could have gone better, maybe, but that was far from a standard pull. It was actually an accidental pull. It's a miracle we didn't all wipe, and I did not lose my shock bot either. There's a fade as I lead in. Dot, followed by penance to spread the dot. And I'm waiting for the big consume here before I drop any cooldowns. Getting regular atonements. And it looks like this time PI went to the Shaman. I still could have given it to the Warlock, because he's probably going to pop here anyway. Let's see what he does. Yeah, so this guy's fortified. This is a pretty big pull. I'm not holding back. And before the consume, I blast Radiance Blast. We just need to recover some health there. And yeah, looking at this, the Warlock did pop, so a PI on him probably would have been the better play, but sometimes I just think getting PI out is paramount. And if I see the Shaman Q, I'm going to drop it. Alright, these guys, you really only need to watch out for the slime wave. It's that charging frontal will fuck you up. And this is a Shadow Fiend Schism also, just getting it rolling. And I have a couple weak auras in this area for trash that highlight if someone needs to be dispelled. Yep, there it is. I don't think I had good grip game this play. I think I tried it, and I think I kind of like slightly trolled. I was kind of just waking up when I played this, but I don't think I killed anybody. Alright, so for these type pulls with those little slime balls, there's a lot of group AoE. So I'm already looking at my buffs, and I only have Rapture. So the best Rapture is led into with a Radiance. It tops health, it atones. Your Rapture will hit harder with an atonement. And on the back side of that cooldown window, I Pain Supped. And there's an avoidable death, I think. But if you replay my Rapture window, you'll notice on my bars there's 2 colors of blue. That's how I track health and my absorb values. So in Rapture, it's super important to track where your absorbs are, and I just think it's easiest to read it left to right as health grows. So with Grid 2, you can monitor that and really make really maximize that 10-second Rapture window. So a little bit more explanation on that. The best a Rapture shield can do is a crit, and it's really easy to see if you have a crit or no crit or low value. So that was a boon. I kind of just wanted to get into it sooner rather than later. I really didn't have any atonements out. So the rotation there was Schism, Boon, Blast, Radiance Blast at the very top. And the way Boon works is as long as you work in a Rapture, as long as you work in a Radiance anywhere in Boon, the atonements will live through the eruption. It's better to delay it, but sometimes a defensive play demands you play it at the very front, like that. So when it comes to Quaking, you always want to try and have like a Shadow Word Death or a Solace or a Shield or a Dispel to cover that, so there's no output. And there was a that was a really pro grip from me, just to my own horn a little bit. The priest got slowed. He had that really nasty dot on him. He was in the AoE, So Dispel Grip. Grip does not operate on a global cooldown, so you can like put those like really close together. So for this pull, I'm opening with Shadow Fiend. Naturally healing, getting some really fresh atonements. Radiance into Rapture. And I'm using my grid 2 to monitor where my absorb values are. And it's always best to prioritize yourself last in a Rapture window. At least I use the Charitable Soul conduit, so any shield cast is partially returned to me. So favor yourself last, you get more HPS that way. And there was a wall just for security. Love that spell, it doesn't have a global. But yeah, looking at the meters, I did 20k HPS, that's just wild. But partially that's due to maximizing Rapture. It's such a powerful spell. And if you're not maximizing it, I don't know what you're doing. But Shadow Fiend was really nice there too. So I opted to boon here. This guy, not only fortified, he has a lot of health. So I Schism boon, and I got 10 full seconds of globals. Getting as much cooldown reduction as possible. But I think I went into the boss dry, but that's okay. So the way I look at it is I prioritize my spells based upon Fortified or Tyrannical. And we are Fortified this week, so I just kind of think it's better to blow cooldowns on trash. And that's what happened. So we're going into boss. I have no cooldowns. Non-Tyrannical though. I think this was pretty standard. I'm not really sure if there's much to talk about. Let's see. PI goes to the Warlock. So there's one note, I'm not sure if I've talked about it before. Whenever you have a Penitent 1 proc, it's 99% of the time best used as an offensive attack with Schism. You always want to maximize your DPS first, kinda. There are rare occasions, 1% of the time, where I will flood a Penance proc defensively into an ally. It feels really nice when it's needed, but I would say it's not often needed, especially if you have Schism. Use it offensively. Okay, here comes my first cooldown. Shadow Fiend, Schism. And then, just like in Boon, you don't really want to break from this Schism window. You kind of want to just DPS for 9 seconds. I think I had to break for some heals though. But the best thing to do before Schism would be refresh the atonement on the tank very last. Ideally with a Shadow Mend for the backloaded atonement, and then Schism. And then you'll at least have tank heals for the full duration of Schism. So I still don't have a grease bot. It's really sad, but I think I get one soon here. So we have Boon. I think I hold Boon. Let's see what I do here. I think I just do natural DPS. So the next couple of pulls are quite a bit harder. And this is one area where I want to use my spells where they're going to count the most. I don't often opt for holding, but these guys are not hard at all. Really all they are is a time sink. But yeah, so I'm holding spells. And this next pull is usually doubled, which is I think that's what I was anticipating, but we did split it. I would still say hold. Fortified weeks, don't blow anything there. Always open with dots. Spread 1 dot with penance. Here's a PI on the Warlock. And I held Boon here too. I think I was thinking about it. But then I noticed the pack was already dead, so didn't use it. And then really all I'm thinking through here is that crawler coming up is really nasty. So I forget what I do. Let's see. Looks like I'm holding Boon again. You definitely need Boon for the crawler, so thankfully I'm getting some procs. I'm not having to pop any cooldowns. And then I think we had a death on the crawler, which I'll talk about when it happens, but I think it's something like DPS need to take a note of. You don't want the crawler's buddy to die first, because it'll bolster the crawler, and that's not good. So, I mean, I don't really know how that goes as DPS, but don't kill his buddy first. So shot coil is less than 10 seconds. Boon is 10 seconds. It's never a bad idea to get into Boon early. Just make sure you're covered. And Blast, Radiance Blast, they're on the end. Just to make sure everyone was topped. Oof. Okay, and then here it goes. Bolstered. Oof. Okay. So looking back on that, I'll actually say I'll take the blame there for that death. I could have done that a lot better and no one would have died. I could have precast Shadow Fiend and laid Barrier. I even had Rapture, so I definitely could have saved that death and would have saved this like 20 seconds of dead time here. I guess the reason I didn't is I never really liked dumping so many cooldowns on just one pull. But right there with a bolstered crawler, it would have made a difference. So I fade, just getting all my dots out here. And in a pull like this, we want to dispel the tank a little bit earlier. Also give him Pain Sup. And this is when I noticed the bat is about 1 second away from fucking me up, so you can always throw in a fear. Definitely needed that wall. PI's on the Warlock. Shadow Fiend on Zol. Yikes, tank's a little bit low. In a pull like this, you really want to be able to see if someone is being targeted with a mechanic. And here there's a red border around my Shaman. He was being shot at and he died, so I should have been prioritizing heals on him. Yeah, and for that one I used Barrier. To get the most out of Barrier, the best thing to do would be watch the cast timer and lay it right as it's casting, or right before even. And we had 1 death there. My avoidable damage meters aren't working. I think there was an update that broke the add-on, but I think he died to avoidable damage. You'd have to replay that. So the only nasty thing here are those Borks. They will really mess you up, and there's nothing you can do about it once they hit you. I prefer this as a 2-pull, but he's not pulling the other guys. I definitely see it as a potential problem if they're pulled accidentally, so those Mind Soothes over there. I felt really secure this pull. Okay, tank stood in avoidable damage. Good recovery. Punted that guy away. Priest res this time. That's another note. If you're watching this as a DPS player with a res, Did I group him? No, the other guy grouped him. If you have a res, you should always handle that yourself before a healer. Just saying. So I felt like the Warlock was going to hold here for boss, but the Shaman didn't. So I went ahead and PI'd the Shaman. This is just a scenario where I don't ever like holding PI. And this is Fortified trash. The boss coming up is non-tyrannical, so... Yeah, the Warlock held. So see, that pull's already over, and my PI has almost already farmed 30 seconds off. So I just think that's the best way to do it. Spread a dot there with penance. Oof. Yeah, I think I almost trolled there. Honestly, I like gripping more, but I shouldn't have many opportunities this round. Maybe I was just slacking off. Okay, so as soon as you get selected with a mechanic, that is the perfect time to wall. So I went ahead and walled there, Shadow Fiend and Schism. And right here, there's really not much you could do. I could have pain supped him to save his life. I went into Rapture thinking that would be enough, but he did not step into the cloud when he was targeted with Mega Tase. So that is a pretty long cast. You have to use the cloud to negate that mechanic. It's definitely something I would call avoidable, and that's why the Shaman died. So I was expecting this guy to start like pwning us, so I dropped a barrier. I never really think barrier is a big deal if you drop it. There's very few pulls in a dungeon where I plan barrier. So I kind of just like use it if I have it sometimes. It's a really good time to refresh dots if it's trash. Yeah, we're talking about why the Shaman die. I think it was a double dot. I'm going to have to replay this. And again, I could have saved him if I pain supped instead of raptured. Honestly, I'm trying to get better about not just thinking of pain sup as a tank defensive. Sometimes it is better to go on a DPS player to save a life. Again, these guys are just time sinks. I wouldn't use any spells there. So I did a key with this priest right before this where everyone was talking about how discipline is bad and he only sees holy, so that must mean holy's better. And I'm just like, dude, your logic is flawed. Like, just because it's popular doesn't necessarily mean it's better. But anyway, yeah, then the warrior here, the tank, was complimenting my healing. He said, I don't know how you do it, your healing's nuts. So yeah, I was trying to make a point of that to the priest. But I think at this point the priest knows he's like a weak link. So he's not typing, he's just trying to play. And I'm fine with that. If you need to focus to play, please. So I think this is just a Schism Seer. Let's see. Yeah. Got it pointed right at me. Have a weak aura there to put white dots around anyone slept. It's really important to see that sometimes. Radiance into Rapture. I wasn't expecting that root to hurt so much, but I think it was bolstered. Thankfully we had that that heal at the same time. I probably could have saved Rapture, but no one died, so it's fine. Alright, there is a PI on the Warlock. Then we have a Shadow Fiend Schism, just pumping as much DPS as possible. And although this pull isn't too pressing, the way I see it is if you get full value on a cooldown window, it's a fair play. So as long as you don't lose value on PI or the Shadow Fiend, we're good. Okay, all cooldowns are down basically. That's a good place to be. And this route's a little bit different for me. What do we do next? I need to make a weak R to highlight the healthiest guy over here too. I was getting lost with who to put my schism on. I think I almost died there. So happy I didn't. But when you're standing in that like thicket, that grass over there, it can kind of hide ground damage. So be careful if you're standing in those weeds. Getting all my dots out. I backload a tank atonement with a Shadow Mend. Go into boon here. Blast Radiance Blast just to be defensive. Yikes, holy luck. The mechanics of atonement, it's usually better if you can use a Shadowman to backload an atonement, like if you're ramping or if you just need tank heals. You Shadowman to backload the atonement before your schism and boon. Just gives better coverage. So we have these big guys next. Right before boss, this is basically just a cooldown reset moment. I do have PI though. Yeah, give it to the lock. You want to give it to a Demonology lock about 20 seconds before Tyrant. So that's why I did it right then. And with these guys especially, and I do this throughout all my keys and all my pulls, through big wigs I disable every spell that does not pertain to dodging. So I think a lot of people just play those type warnings like 100%, and that just doesn't, I think it dilutes the purpose. So I just want my big wigs to shout at me if it involves something where I need to move. So yeah, turn on those shockwaves. So typically I would boon at the top of this boss, but we don't have it. But we do have Shadow Fiend, so that's fine. Shadow Fiend Schism, and then just pump your basic spells. Yeah, I gripped in the priest there. I don't think he knows how to play this boss, to be honest. We really need that damage divided by all 5 of us. And then he left that far pylon. Actually, damn. We're not activating either of those back pylons, it looks like. So that's the tank and the priest. Do not know the mechanics, but you want to turn those pylons on. Maybe they're just farming DPS, I don't know. But here's a boon. Nova Blast. And I booned before that attack just to make sure everyone was healthy. And then I threw down my barrier right before the front end damage of it. And for this, Rapture is perfect. Definitely want to lead into it with a Radiance. And then use Grid 2 to farm healthy values on everybody. And we're A-okay. That boss like literally melted. Okay, so we only have a little bit of trash left. We have 1 boss left. And I am fully botted. So, I don't know. Even though these last couple of pulls aren't hard, I think I usually get like nervous because I'm trying to protect the bots, and sometimes I make mistakes on this very last pull. So always be on guard and I think with bigwigs up here too, the only alert I have on is the gunner, whatever it's called. I don't really need anything beeping at me on my screen unless it's the rapid fire. So you just want to dodge that. It's for sure going to kill you. PI went to the lock. So in these last two pulls, this is a cooldown dump because you don't need cooldowns on the boss until the damage phase. So this is a perfect time to use cooldowns. They will reset before you need them. But mine are still on cooldown, but I use them next pull. So I would not use Shadow Fiend here because he won't be ready in time, but Boone is. So is we don't need Paints Up either. So I Paints Up. That's 8 seconds just to get dots out. Schism, Boone, Nova Blast. Banking on high DPS, banking on max cooldown reduction. Shadow Locked. One really good selling point of Disc, if you ask me, is we have Shadow and Holy spells. So I was able to still give output. Defensive Penance. Always nice. The reason defensive penances are good is because it's one of our few spells that has a heal on the front end. Okay, so we're in a perfect place here. Non-tyrannical, shouldn't be a big deal at all. Watching for ground damage and watching for that dot. So thankfully the first one went to the Warlock. He has a lot of defensives. On non-tyrannical, Atonement will handle most of it. You do have to Shadow Mend some though. And since I have a mechanic, wall is never a bad idea. It's kind of what that button's for. If you catch a mechanic wall. And looking at this, I think I could have thrown another Schism. That's my biggest critique of myself when I watch my videos back, is I notice I don't have good uptime on Schism often. I think I could have had 2 rounds of Schism, full rounds, and I only had 1. Uh-oh. Oh, so I thought that's what happened. I had to catch the replay, but I definitely killed him there. But I come in for a quick res, just say sorry. I punted that guy, he was in my way, but then he landed right on the priest. Okay, so priority 1 here is get some heals out, top people off. You do kind of just have to mana dump, there's nothing to attack here. Use Penance on cooldown defensively, it's very inexpensive on mana. And I got a little bit like kerflumped here, or whatever the word is. I was trying to get up the hill, but then I noticed like so many people were dying. I got caught casting as priority rather than getting up the hill. Here we go, going up the hill. I'm not in a good place right now. Okay, there we go. Yikes. Wall, love that spell. Just when I got there, we finish it. Okay, so as we're running in from afar, get a dot, get Shadow Fiend, get PI out on the lock, Schism, Boone. No Lust, which is sad, so Nova Blast pattern. That's fine. Death, Blast, Penance. And that was a really good 24 Junkyard. I love doing these for sport. I think the shock bots just make it so fun. I think anyone who plays Discipline knows we're just like DPS whores. And I have done better. I wish I wish I had my better attempt recorded, but I pulled 9.1k DPS overall. The best I've done is 10.1k. So I think that's just because we had a lot of conservative pulls. If you double up a lot of those single pulls, it would speed up the dungeon a lot too. Not only that, it would increase my DPS. So I think we just played a little conservatively, which I'm not complaining. I think a timed key is a timed key. And without any deaths, it made this a really fun run since I had Shockbot from the get-go. But yeah, my meters are broken. Nothing's working over there. I was trying to look at avoidable damage. I know the priest and the shaman were high, but I'm pretty sure I was low because I lived the whole time. But I think this is my third video this week. I'm happy to get some out there over 20s. And I'm so happy to have like a handful of people following me now and like looking forward to my videos. I love helping with discipline. I think I kind of have a knack with it. I've worked a lot to build my UI and like understand it over the years. And I love helping others. So if you ever have any questions, I think I have like 100% reply rate. So let me know your questions. Happy to help however I can. You can ask me like general things, maybe things that pertain to this video, or specific things about the spec. Yeah, I'm an open book. I love to help. And I'm not really comfortable with the new dungeons yet. I have done them up to like 23s and 4s, but they're not clean, and I don't feel like I've learned them all the way, so I've not recorded any yet. It's on my list to get one out, but yeah, if you look in chat. So everyone's common response when they see discipline is, oh wow, I've not seen that spec in a while, or oh, I thought disc was bad, and I'm just trying to, like, you know, one person at a time prove that discipline is not totally incompetent, which is just what people think. Yeah, anyway, I think discipline's super fun. I think it's the funnest spec in the game. If you ask me, games are for having fun. I like discipline. I'm going to play what I like, and discipline is not incapable. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, disc.